The following is a presentation of iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to those of you watching on iRacing Live, Facebook, and YouTube. Welcome to LSRTV's coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series, presented by Gary Mercer Trucking, live tonight from Sonoma Raceway in Sonoma, California. I have James White joined up here in the booth by my colleague, Mr. Chris Murdoch, and the lovely and talented Cisco Scaramuza sitting down in our virtual production trailer, making things happen, pushing all the buttons, and doing everything you need to see the excellent camera work that will be covered over the course of this evening. And it's going to be a lot of camera work because we go road racing for the first time this year, Mr. Murdoch, and it's 11 turns, it's Northern California, it's wine country, and the question is going to be who's going to be whining about their performance tonight and who's going to be whining and dining themselves in victory lane at the end of the night. We'll have two forms of wine. You just want to end up with the good one here after 50 laps.
Yeah, you do, James, and that'll be the test, because for a lot of drivers, it's the first time jitters. A lot of these rookies in this series don't really have a lot of track time on road courses, and especially like a road course like Sonoma. It's such a tricky track, so we'll be watching people jockey for position, try to get in the corners and not lock up the brakes too hard getting in there. These stock cars can always be a handful on road courses, as you know, James, so we'll be looking out to see who will come away with it here tonight.
And also of note here, especially for the full season drivers, we're getting down to it 10 races until the playoffs begin here in the Full Throttle Cup Series after tonight, and we already have 9 drivers who have picked up victories over the course of the 2017 season. So that currently leaves 7 spots up for grabs on points, and that could diminish significantly if we get a first-time winner tonight. You're down to 6 spots and 10 races. If you're not in that top 16, it's time to get going, I think.
It really is. Especially at this track, you always want to perform good at this track. This is a really big hump, because we always said that the super speedways are wild cards, but the road courses are just as much as wild cards. You know, people are struggling here in practice. You're gonna have to watch through the turns 2, maybe turn 7, turn 4, and especially turn 11. Going down in there, you gotta make sure you're not gonna lock it up and get into anybody else. A lot of tricky turns here at Sonoma, James, and you never want to be on the receiving end of one of those lockups.
And also of note for our viewers tonight, we will have 2 randomly determined competition cautions over the course of this race between laps 13 and 34, the numbers of which have been drawn tonight and are currently being held in the firm of Abbott and Atkinson Accounting, our series admins, and they will throw them at points during this race, but we don't know them yet, so we'll just have to kind of watch and see when they occur, and of course we'll let you know here on LSRTV when they pop up. But for the drivers and for the crews, Mr. Murdoch, that's going to throw a huge curve ball rather, and a wrench into the strategies that they try and use tonight to get to the front.
Yeah, because nobody knows when it's going to happen. It's just a guessing game. It's a guessing game for us up here in the booth. We don't know when they're going to be called, so it's awkward, I should say. I guess it's going to be interesting to see if they can adapt to it, because they'll have to. It's going to be it's definitely going to throw a wrench in things, because imagine you come down pit road, you get your stop done, and the next lap a caution comes out and you're all the way towards the back of the field, or maybe you're all the way towards the front of the field. It could play in both hands. You're just going to have to watch out tonight, because it's going to be wild.
And this is a rule that RSR only uses on the road courses, so in some sense, you talked a little bit about this race being a wild card, but that's a strategy play that you won't see anywhere else in the series besides the Watkins Glen race, which we'll broadcast here on LSRTV in August, and you can use that and just totally take a gamble if you want, and somehow end up at the front of the field if you play it right, and get down pit road right before the yellow comes out, like you said.
And and it's always interesting because with these road courses, we don't have the other yellows for wreck. Say people wreck or junk it down in turn 11, there won't be a caution for that. So it's definitely a plus for those drivers who get taken out, who think their race is done, because if they can get that caution, maybe get back on the lead lap, because it takes a lot to go a lap down here at a track like Sonoma. So there's always ups and downs to each rule, and like you said, it's just another element to add to this wild card race.
Lots of fun and crazy strategy elements that we will bring to you over the course of the evening. But at this point, we're going to go ahead and get ready to take you to the starting grid for tonight's race, which will be set up here momentarily. And it looks like that Lionel Callisto has managed to win the pole for tonight's race this evening. So that 97 car will start on the front row. Opposite of him will be last week's winner, Carl Shedd, in the 45. David Comstock already qualified for the playoffs this season with multiple wins, will start in the 3rd position. And then Daniel Eberhardt, who will also be in the playoffs come September, will start from 4th. Kyle Barnes will begin tonight from the 5th position, and then Nick Silver starts outside of row 3 and 6. Then Brandon Bowie starts 7th. Joseph Tice starts 8th. Anthony DeBarro, still looking for his first win of the season, been strong but hasn't quite been able to string it together, will start 9th, and then Mike Kelly will round out your top 10.
In that 11th position, that's going to belong to Sean Casto. David Washington is going to start right next to him. Corey Wolf is going to be in the 13th position. Our very own Austin Coop, he's going to be running down in that 14th position. Trevor Roppolo, 15th, 16th belongs to Gabriel Wood. Andrew Farniars is going to be 17th. Nelson Rivera, 18th, 19th belongs to Dwayne Vincent. And rounding out your top 20, that 34 of Sean Boundy.
Scott Walter will begin tonight from the 21st position, and then it will be Bruce Ackerman, who starts from 22nd, winner of the Daytona race a few weeks ago. 23rd will be where you find the 32 of Shane Ewing. John Abbott will start from the 24th position. Ross Cato begins tonight from 26th. Or 25th rather. 26th is where you will find the 04 of Braden Whitaker. Gio Bromonti, champion of the Young Lions division at the Bojangles Summer Shootout a year ago, will begin from 27th. Doug Roth, driver of the number 43, starts in 28th. And then it's Dylan Jones, Chris Hurlow, Randy Yoakum, and Douglas Wyatt, all not taking time. They begin in 29th, 30th, 32nd and 31st and 32nd respectively to round out your field. We'll take a look here at the track facts now at Sonoma Raceway. You have 12 turns on this road course and an elevation change of 160 meters, starting from the highest point here in turn 2 where you see the cars going now, all the way down to turn 11, the lowest point there, that tight little hairpin where I imagine we'll see a lot of drivers get into it, because that's a heavy braking zone. That's about as heavy as it comes on this track, Mr. Murdoch, and you'll see some incidents there over the course of this race. That's almost a guarantee.
It really is. You'll see a lot of those wrecks, especially the lockups towards turn 11, turns 10, even people just trying to get as much as they can out of these cars. Like I said, these cars aren't really normally built for these road courses, and they can always be a handful there, James. So a lot of things go into these drivers' minds, and this road courses and driving, making these left and right turns is really where it turns boys into men.
The other thing to note here is that the league admins have stressed the use of local yellows tonight, so we're going to try and avoid going with the full course caution because we are on a road course as best we can. There may be some situations that arise over the course of this evening where that's not the case and we do have to go full course yellow, but don't expect as many of them as you see on a regular race here on LSRTV with the Full Throttle Cup Series at the ovals, where you almost have to have a full course yellow. And here you can get away with the local yellows, and it works out the same way. But happy to have you with us here on LSR TV for race number 16 of the 2017 Full Throttle Cup Series season as we get ready to take the green flag here. Lionel Kalisto will lead them to the green flag, and we are underway here from Wine Country. Kalisto with a good jump there, maybe about a car length back to David Comstock in second, and then Shed didn't get the greatest of jumps. He'll go third, but everybody quickly down to single file racing as they come through turn 2 for the first time.
And everybody throughout the top 10 here, James, seems to be making it through a little bit clean. We got a little bit of a side-by-side battle that's between the 2 of Mike Kelly and the 52 of Sean Casta. There's still side-by-side, a little bit of contact going through. You'll see that a lot here today, James. And here it comes down to where the trouble turn, where people can so easily run into that tire barrier.
One of our tricky spots. We didn't get the chance to highlight it before we went green, but both Chris Murdoch and I are in agreement that if you're going to see trouble tonight, it will be turn 2 at the top of the hill, turn 4 as you come down to the chute that we just passed through, turn 7 at the end of the chute, and then the hairpin at turn 11, that heavy braking zone that you see Kalisto coming into now as he leads the field down through turn 11 for the first time here tonight. But everybody quickly down to it, single file. Comstock looks like he's been able to at least maintain the pace of the 97 as they come through this, and then there's a little bit of a gap back to Carl Shed in that 45 car. As we come across the track the first time, he's already fallen back a second to Kalisto and is back about maybe 8 or 9 tenths to Comstock at the stripe. So a little bit of a gap developing there, and then you've got Daniel Eberhardt, teammate to Carl Shed, right behind him. So maybe a battle here for third developing within the next few corners.
It really is developing here, James. And one thing that surprises me is how clean all these drivers have been throughout the first few runs. Normally you'll see a little bit of contact, but the only contact I've really seen here so far is that contact between Sean Casto and Mike Kelly coming down the hill. So everything's staying a little bit clean. Like you said, Lionel Kalisto, he's showing them how it's done. He's out there about 3 tenths on David Comstock and even more on Carl Shed, like you mentioned. But everybody seemed to get through this track pretty well throughout the top 10, not seeing too many cars with damage, maybe some back end damage from just getting into that braking zone like you said, but everybody going smooth sailing right now.
And a really, really good break through that heavy braking zone 11 for Comstock. I think he might have been able to gain a car length or 2 on Kalisto in that jump, and we'll see what the gap is here at the line as they come across the second time. And yes, not too much, only 7/100ths of a second, but for that 42 car, it's just that little extra bit of momentum. And if you get that 97's rear bumper a little bit bigger and your front windshield, that gives you the drive to go after him and chase him. And Comstock, for the most part, looks very clean through that top twisty section up in turns 2 through 4 here. Probably the more technical, I'd say, of the two. If you make 8, 8A, and 9 a little bit more rhythmic. So might be his strong suit on the track. We'll just have to watch and see how that develops as this race progresses.
Yeah, and like we mentioned earlier, James, the trouble corner, Anthony DeBarro in the 96 machine got a little bit squirrely coming off of turn 4 and down to turn 7. That's allowed Brandon Bowie to get a little bit closer to that machine. Not quite there yet. That's going to be your battle for the 7th place position going on. And then, like you mentioned, the battle for third, shaping up teammates Daniel Eberhardt, Carl Shed. Eberhardt's right on the back bumper coming through turns 11. They're not going to force anything too hard right now, but Eberhardt's made up some great time on that 45 machine.
I think the key to note here is that the 45 machine just does not have the pace that the two leaders do right now. Kalisto and Comstock have jumped out to the tune of about 1.4 seconds to the rear bumper of Comstock to Shed there. So 1.6 to Kalisto and then 2 tenths back to Comstock, which is closing by the minute. Main point here, though, is that it's over a second and a half back to that 45 car. And the way Eberhardt's running, I wonder if that 90 machine has the pace to stick with the two leaders if he can just get around his teammate. But getting around his teammate will be the problem for Eberhardt.
And you would have to think, with it being so early, being only lap 4 that we're working right here now, James, and them being teammates, it would be a little bit easier for Daniel Eberhardt to get through. But points, like you mentioned, we're getting down to the final few races before the chase here, and points matter. Everybody wants to make that that little chase, and you can't give an inch, especially at Sonoma, where you have to run good. You have to run good at these road courses just about as much as you have to run good at those super speedways. So seeing that, it might not be a little bit easier for Eberhard to work over his teammate right now.
Might have been a little bit, shall we say, prophetic. Maybe your crystal ball was working for you there, because Eberhard backed off of Shed just a little bit there that last time by. So maybe you know something that we don't, Chris. Maybe Eberhard's decided to just kind of cool his tires back a little bit and let them come back down to temperatures, not race the 45 so hard, because as we know just as well as anybody here, it is so easy to burn off the tires on these cars, especially the rear tires, at a place like this where you accelerate so much and you have so much power because these cars are rear wheel drive. It is really, really easy to burn all of the good off of the left rear and the right rear really early in a run if you're not careful.
It really is, and with that no caution rule in effect here, James, it's all up to the driver in the car to keep those tires under control, because you don't get a break in between except for those 2 cautions. In between that window that we said at the top of the broadcast, you don't really get too much time to cool off your tires, so it's all under the driver now, as you see Comstock get right on the back bumper of Lionel Callisto coming through turn 11 across the stripe. That's the closest we've seen to Comstock getting past Callisto this time, so he's able to hang with that 97 machine, and he looks to be just a bit faster that time by.
Just a little bit, and that might have been the mistake there from Shed, because Eberhard nearly got to his outside and then thought better of it there, coming through the very, very tricky 3-3A section there as they come down the hill to turn 4. But the opportunities are there. You just have to kind of find the right position to make it happen. Maybe turn 7 is the spot for Eberhard, but Shed tries to cover down on the inside a little bit. So Eberhard didn't really make a move, but I think Shed got to blocking before Eberhard could really make anything happen in that position. In the meantime, though, it is all David Comstock and Callisto at the front of the field. Those two are stuck together like glue or peanut butter and jelly, or whatever analogy you like to use. I suppose maybe grape jelly here, since we're in wine country. But they have not left each other's sight since the drop of the green flag, and they really have taken off from the rest of this field, out in front by almost 2 seconds to Shed.
Yeah, and don't look now, just behind Shed and Eberhard, you got Barnes and Silver, the 15 and the 24 closing in. That 45 machine of Carl Shed is really holding up Eberhard, and it's allowing these drivers behind them to catch up, and you don't want too many drivers in the mix, because getting past one driver is hard enough here, James. You add a few more drivers into the mix, then it's chaos, especially at Sonoma, going up through the hill and down the hill. You always got to pay attention. So Eberhard needs to work around his teammate as fast as he can before the 15 and the 24 get here.
That would be the thinking, if you really know what's up. But I think maybe the most impressive thing is that we really haven't seen that much movement here as Callisto gets a little bit squirrely. Maybe this opens the door here for Comstock, but boy, Callisto clipped the curves there at turn 8 and really got that 97's rear end loose. And now, as they come through the 10-11 complex, this might be the chance, the first real chance for Comstock to try and dive to the inside. He'll look, won't necessarily press it, though. Thinks better of it. Checks right in line behind the 97 and says, I'm going to take my chances somewhere else. But that 97 seems to be slipping around just a little bit more now that we've got some laps on these tires. Makes me wonder if he might be overdriving this car, especially if we go a full green flag run before we get one of our 2 random competition cautions. That would be really bad news for the 97 if he has no rear grip and just has to survive here for maybe, 10, 15, 20 laps.
Yeah, and that's something we never really touched on at the beginning of the broadcast. Curb hopping is such a common thing, especially in these cup cars here, James. And if you clip the curbs too much, you'll see exactly what you saw from Lionel Callisto. It gets too squirrely, and now you'll see the Comstock. Oh, try the inside. He's going to get there. He's maybe going to be able to pass him. They're side by side going down the hills through 8A and turns number 9 and clips him. So close between Callisto and Comstock, but Comstock comes away with the lead.
So a new leader here at Sonoma, David Comstock, now to the point. and I wonder just how much Kalisto has pushed that car in the first 5 to 10 laps. You can see the gap already jumping out to about 2, 3, 4 car lengths as they traveled at pace down to turn 11, and that's more than Kalisto was really able to ever get on Comstock. So Comstock now, if he saved his tires well, might just be able to drive away from that 97 very, very easily within the next few laps. Also want to note that Eberhardt has managed to find his way around Carl Shed, so Shed's back a few spots from where he started, qualified second, now currently runs fourth. And then you've got Kyle Barnes currently sitting in the 5th spot, Nick Silver 6th. Anthony DeBarro has come up from the 9th spot where he started to 7th, and then Brandon Bowie 8th, Joseph Tice 9th, and Mike Kelly 10th. Not really that much movement through the field. Trying to go through our leaderboard here and see if we can find a hard charger of any form or sort or way. And I suppose your best answer might be Chris Hurlow back down in the 27th spot. He's come up 3 spots, but not really a lot of movement here through this field. Everybody just trying to navigate the trickiness of Sonoma Raceway early on in this event.
And this battle for the lead continues to rage on up here, James. Lionel Kalisto has not got off the back bumper of Comstock since he's been passed, and you were wondering how much Kalisto was pushing there, but maybe he was saving, and now he can push maybe just a little bit more because he was all over the back bumper of the 42 coming through 8 and 9, and he's now laid off and opened that gap up a little bit, and you can't look back too far because you're going to see Eberhardt back there, like you mentioned, who got past Shed. He's already quicker than these guys up here in the top 2 spots, maybe sitting behind his teammates for a few laps, allowed him to cool off his tires, and now he can make a run for that lead because he's closing in quickly.
I made that point a few laps ago. It doesn't surprise me now that Eberhardt has found a way to clear his teammate in Carl Shed, that the driver, the number 90, is starting to come up through this field and towards Kalisto and Comstock, because I checked his lap times as he was battling with Shed, and they were on par with both the 42 and the 97. So and in some cases a little bit faster by maybe a 10th or 2. Not too much better, but certainly enough to come up through this field to begin to make this a 3-car battle for the lead if we can get everybody caught back up.
And that would just throw a wrench into everything, because we've seen what Comstock and Kalisto can do. They've been all over each other, contact being made, all over each other, clipping each other, going through the corners. Now add a 3rd car into that, Daniel Eberhardt. That's just going to make everything a lot more tricky for these guys, and maybe bring a few more drivers. Maybe Nick Silver, Anthony DeBarro. Even if Carl Shed can figure out, maybe Carl Shed's doing the same thing that his teammate did before, because like you mentioned before, there is that window. You have to conserve your stuff, because you never know when that random caution is going to be and how long you have to stay out on those tires. So maybe Shed's just playing all this into his favor. It's all a bunch of games of what if right now, and it's playing into Eberhardt's favor right now,
because Eberhardt's got the speed and got the pace. Also want to note here, while we look through this leaderboard and kind of move through these opening laps, that the Hard Charger Award at the moment absolutely has to go to the 11 of Dylan Jones, one of the Aegis Motorsports members, but he has managed to come up from the 29th position to 16th here within the first 10 laps, now working lap 11. So just within a 1/5 of this race, Jones has managed to come up 13 positions, which is definitely more than you can say that anybody else. I'm not sure that there's anybody else in the field that's even come close to having what Jones has been able to do in terms of positions gained through the first 11 laps of this event. So watch that 11 car as he comes through the field, and as we get our 2 competition cautions, that should give him the chance to reset, and Jones may end up being a threat for the victory in this race if the cautions fall correctly and he can take advantage of these restarts.
Yeah, and that's really what you got to do. Capitalize on everything here. Consistency, that's all we're going to be paying attention to here tonight, especially with no cautions, or I guess 2 cautions with those random cautions here, James. Consistency is going to be where it's at, on pit road, off of pit road, especially on pit road. You're going to make sure you don't want to make any mistakes, because if you make a green flag pit stop and you try to maybe guess when those cautions are going to be, you can't afford a speeding penalty. I know I said it takes a long time to go a lap down here, James, but it takes even longer to catch back up and be back with the pack. You never want to get left behind, or you'll be out and your race will be done before you know it.
And just to note, we have entered the window for the 2 competition cautions between laps 11 and 41. Make sure we get that clear, because I know I misspoke that earlier. So it's 11 and 41. That's your window. We will, at some point in this race, have 2 yellow flags during the window between those laps. When they fall, we don't know. We will tell you as they happen, but we're sort of waiting on them just as everybody else is. As Kalisto gets very, very squirrely coming out of turn 2. Just tried to gas it up a little bit too much and got too hard on the loud pedal there coming out of that second turn. And now Eberhardt's right on the rear bump of the 97. We're trying to make something happen here through this turn 4 and turn 7 complex.
Yeah, and it's exactly what you said earlier, James. Lionel Kalisto seems to have pushed just a little bit too much. He's got a little bit too much heat in those tires, and it's causing him to slide as Eberhardt passes Kalisto with ease. And now there's a driver in the grass. That's the 8 of Randy Yoakum. He's going to be a lap down now. He went through the grass to try to get out of all the drivers' ways that are coming, and that just opened up a huge gap for David Comstock in that 42. About 6/10 now. It's really opened up the gap.
That shook a lot of people up, because Carl Shedd ended up going through the grass trying to avoid all of that. Meanwhile, one car coming down pit road, it's the 19 machine of Bruce Ackerman, a little bit back in the field, so we'll keep an eye on what happens to him while we pay attention to the front of this field. And what that all has done has brought Nick Silver, Anthony DeBarro, and Brandon Bowie right back together. Those 3 were a little bit strung out, running in the 5th, 6th, and 7th positions on track, but now with all of that madness, that's probably your best 3-car battle pack up here towards the front of this field as they try and sort things out and make their way to charge towards the likes of Shedd and Kalisto and Eberhardt and Comstock while trying to clear Randy Yoakum.
Yeah, and look, we said that there was a huge gap between Comstock and Eberhardt after that whole shakeup, but Eberhardt's closed it down quite a bit indeed, as he's getting through these S's and he's trying to catch back up. Comstock's so good through these S curves, like you've said before there, James. He's just able to get through them just better than anybody else. He's able to get up on those curbs better than anybody else, because I'm noticing Eberhardt's not getting on the curbs through there as much as Comstock, and he's able to get the car to turn just a little bit better, and Comstock is still leading this race.
I think also of note here, as I watched that 42 car work its magic through these twisty turns of the wine country, is that he's able to sort of arc them a little bit wider than anybody else, and he's using as much of the racetrack as he possibly can in order to make his apexes through the corners just that little bit easier. And you don't really think that'll end up doing that much if you sit and think about it, but then you look at the data and you look at the numbers and you see, maybe 1/10, 2/10, 3/10 that he has over Eberhardt and Kalisto and company, and over the course of 15, 20 laps, that adds up. That's 1-2 seconds. That becomes a sizable gap that's worth really fighting for.
It really is, and we always say every little bit counts, and that little bit that he does is he's sliding just a little bit through the S's, and now there is the random caution flag. James, caution flies here on lap 15, and that's 1 down.
So there is your first competition caution of the evening. Make note of that. One is on lap 15, and we will have the other between laps 16 and 41 at some point to be determined in this race. Once again, it is the accounting firm of Atkinson and Abbott, our league admins, that holds the keys to that second number. So we'll see what happens with that. But in the meantime, we'll have to wait and just let everybody get sorted before they can even come down pit road.
Yeah, and it's a long pace lap around Sonoma to get everybody sorted out. Everybody was pretty much spread out as far as you could get around here, James, and it's it's interesting, all these drivers. Comstock was having a little bit of trouble till the end. I think that caution really helped him out, because going through those S's, he was pretty much sliding through there towards the end of it, and it was allowing Eberhard to catch up, and then that caution flew, and now Kalisto will have fresh tires. So that 3-car battle you've been wanting is now here. Once they get fresh tires, the gloves are going to come off.
But fresh tires will be the key on this pit stop, and I'd be very surprised if anybody took anything besides 4 tires, because we know how important they are, maybe more so here on the road courses than just about anywhere else, because of the way you run the rear tires, because of the stress that both sides of the car get, because you turn left and right here.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, turning left and right always poses a challenge, especially in the stock cars that are really only meant to go left. You got to figure out what balance do you want. Do you want more left turn in it or more right turn? It's always the balance between these stock cars, and people are figuring it out, and pit stops are happening now.
David Comstock leads the field down into pit road, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens. The key here is don't overshoot, don't undershoot. Just make sure you get it into the box. To some degree, you are at the mercy of the sim in terms of how fast your pit stop will be. But that what you can control, entry and exit and speeding. Those are the things we see here more often than not. And those are the things that if you're one of these drivers on pit road, you want to avoid.
Yeah, as we see Kalisto drop it up on the car, first pit stall. He's gonna come out third shed, gonna have first tires right behind him, but the battle off of pit road, that's gonna go to David Comstock, Eberhard, and then Kalisto. Your top 3 didn't change that time by so here we go. We get ready to rack them up and stack them up and get ready to go again.
Stack, re-rack, get ready and set to go, as English is evidently a thing that fails me tonight. But we'll have Comstock there up towards the front of the field. But as I look at this, your leader of this race when we come back to the green flag is actually going to be the 15 of Kyle Barnes, who, along with teammate Austin Coop, managed to short pit that first yellow flag and is on a little bit of a different cycle and strategy than everybody else. So that will be worth noting. They will be on a little bit older tires and maybe a little bit less fuel, but everybody can make it to the end from here easily on fuel. That will not be an issue for the rest of this race. Tires are the only thing. Also noting that Nick Silver will jump out ahead of these guys. I was actually wrong. It will be Silver that leads this bunch to green. So it will be Silver, then Barnes, then Coop, your top 3 when we get back to it. But while we have a moment, we're going to take a moment to remind you that coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series is brought to you by Hippie's Paint Shop. Hippie's Paint Shop has over 5 years of experience providing top-quality custom paint schemes for all iRacing vehicles at a low price. Because after all, at Hippie's Paint Shop, the cost isn't high, just the painter. As we zero in on that 13 of Dwayne Vincent, a stalwart of this series, the 2015 Full Throttle Cup Series champion and a longtime customer of Hippie's Paint Shop, making sure that his car looks ready for action here on the road course at Sonoma. A pretty solid paint scheme and solid work that they do over at Hippie's, and just a group that we love seeing in action here in the Full Throttle Cup Series, Chris.
Yeah, they really do a great job with those paints, and you can see them every week in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series. But right now, we get ready to go back green as the lights are off on top of the pace car. They had to add an extra lap of pacing because not everybody was caught up to the field, but this time we will go green. And as you mentioned, Nick Silver in that 24 machine is out front, and we'll have to pay attention to that 15 and the 6 of Austin Coop to see how well that strategy of short pitting works out, as they've got a fast David Comstock, Eberhard, and Kalisto right behind them.
Just to be clear for everybody at home, Nick Silver has yet to pit in this race. That's why he's in the lead. Barnes and Coop short pitted and did not come down under that yellow flag. And then everybody from Comstock, who was in fourth on back, came down and got tires and fuel under this most recent yellow. So old tires at the front of the field and slightly fresher tires behind that 24 of silver, but it's the Omnicraft car that will lead the field to green here on lap 19 when we get back to it. Here we go, coming down now. Off goes the 24 of Nick Silver. Gets a really good jump on Barnes and is able to jump ahead by about 3-4 car lengths. Meanwhile, Comstock is right there on the rear bumper of Coop, just badgering that 6 car, trying to find a way around as we begin to work our way up through the technical 2-3-3A4 complex here at Sonoma.
Yeah, and Comstock's not stopping there. Like you said, he's arcing that corner very wide, allowing him to be right on the back bumper of Austin Coop, and he's already looking towards the inside down into turns 4, and he's going to shove Coop out there, and Coop's going to have to surrender a few positions to stay away from that tire barrier. Now Eberhard is going to be past him, and now Callisto looking through Coop. So Coop gets shoved to the outside and shoved to the back as now Comstock focuses on Barnes.
Callisto finished that off. Coop was able to get in the line, but he got hip checked from the 97 coming out of turn 7. So a little bit of damage to that number 6 machine as well. And he will slide back, I believe, to the 6th position when it is all said and done. And in the meantime, up here at the front of the field, it is still Silver and still Barnes, but Silver sliding around on his tires. Barnes is hanging on as best he can, but Comstock and Eberhard are the ones that are really beginning to make the charge up towards the front of this field. They've got a lot of pace as they come back up to turn 2.
And here's something we've got to pay attention to, because Nick Silver is hoping that the cautions are in succession, because they're random. You never know. We had the first caution on lap 15. It's now lap 20 that they're working on, so this caution could happen at any point. It could have happened the next lap after if they really wanted it to, but now Silver's able to pull away as Barnes has got to fight off Comstock. He's not going to put up any fight. As now look at Eberhard going towards the inside of Comstock, going to be there, not going to quite make the pass. As now Barnes gets squarely off the bumps, and we've mentioned how much you want to stay off that curbing, and now Comstock still behind Barnes.
Boy, did Barnes ever make that car wide coming out of turn 7. I don't know if I've seen a bumper become wider on corner exit in just about the whole of this RSR season, because Barnes threw the block on David Comstock there to make things happen, and that's caused a little bit of stack up here with the 90 car, who's jumped to the outside, and now Comstock with a really strong drive out of the corner, and Barnes just doesn't have the tires to hang with him. So Comstock now to the front, or at least towards the front in this case, to the front of Barnes and up to second in the running order. And now Barnes and Eberhard are fighting wheel to wheel and door to door coming out of turn 2. A little bit of contact there, I think, and maybe a donut on both the 90 and the 15, but it's Eberhard that manages to clear Kyle Barnes. So Eberhard now up to the 3rd spot. Now we'll go on the hunt to go get Comstock in the 2nd position.
Yeah, and Eberhard was playing no games when it came to getting past Kyle Barnes, and Kyle Barnes was not happy. He even gave him a shot going turns 3 and 3A, and now he's got to fight off Callisto. And now Comstock is already got his sights set on Nick Silver, fast approaching that 24 machine, and I think he's going to be there by the time they get to turn 11, James, and we're going to have a battle for the lead, and I don't think it's going to be much of a fight.
We'll see. Silver will get his chance to block and see what happens. You can already see he takes the defensive line into turn 11, but Comstock just has his way with undercutting people. Did the same thing to Barnes the last lap by. Couldn't quite get it done this time by, but he shifts. He pulls the crossover there in the dog leg, or at least tries to. Didn't quite get the space he needed to complete the pass, but nearly got alongside Nick Silver. Now he's going to try and do the same thing as they go through 2-2-3A. We'll get alongside the 24, maybe pinch him, maybe set himself up for the run in turn 4 or make it happen on the outside at 3A to go get the race lead. So Comstock with a move at 3A to get around Nick Silver, and now as they come to 4, here comes Daniel Eberhardt under the 24. So first and second and third all change hands in the span of 2 corners. Comstock back to the point, Eberhardt to second, Silver back to 4, and now he's under fire from Lionel Callisto for that 4 spot as they come through turn 7 and 8 and 8A.
And Eberhardt's not wasting any time. He had locked the tires up to get past Nick Silver there, and he made it happen. He got what he needed. He does not want to lose any time to that 42 of David Comstock, because that 42 is on rails. He's been able to stay out front the entirety of this race so far, James. And now, like you mentioned, Callisto's got to get around Nick Silver, and they're gonna make contact, get the back bumper, and now Callisto's gonna get a little bit loose, open the door for the 96 of Anthony DeBarro, gonna get on the inside now, going up towards turns 1 and 2. Nick Silver able to pull away, so big, huge mistake on Lionel Callisto's part.
Callisto just got caught up behind that 24 machine. It didn't really have much of a place to go, and that's brought Anthony DeBarro up into, I believe, the 4th position now for the first time all night. So we've talked about how DeBarro's had speed in a lot of these Full Throttle Cup Series races over the course of this 2017 season, and hasn't really had the chance to just finish one of them and win. But here he comes, wasting no time now, right underneath the 24. Nick Silver gets right around that Omnicraft machine, and the WinView Games 96 is now up into the 3rd position. We'll try and go get second here. He's got a ways to run down Eberhardt, but he's got the pace, and that's all that matters at this point.
That is really all that matters. And now Eberhardt getting ever so closer to David Comstock now, as he's going to be on the back bumper getting into turn 11. It's all about that entry. You can always dive it in just a little bit deeper, but you never want to go too hard, or you'll find yourself right in that outside wall. And they've seemed to find that sweet spot as now Nick Silver, Lionel Callisto dropping more spots throughout the field, and something's wrong with that 97 machine because he's off pace.
97 just kind of stuck there a little bit behind the bar. He's still able to hang in front of Silver, who is now desperately struggling for tires, trying to hold off Brandon Bowie for that 5th position. Won't know how successful he's going to try and be, but just a lot of trouble there trying to make things happen. Also getting word from our race officials that Kyle Barnes has been black flagged, I believe, for contact with the 30 machine is what I am hearing. So trouble there for Kyle Barnes. We'll see if there's more that comes out of that, but that kind of kills the short pinning strategy that the 15 had been on. Austin Coop has done a decent job of hanging on with the older tires. Currently runs in, I believe, the 8th position. Seventh position for that 6 machine. So he's been able to make that work, and if we get a caution soon, that might actually pay off for Coop, but won't necessarily be happening for the 15. Up at the front of the field, though, you're right, Mr. Murdoch. It is Daniel Eberhardt who's beginning to close the gap on David Comstock. And now, hearing that Brandon Bowie is making moves through the field, he's gotten around Nick Silver. So, move Brandon Bowie up to the 5th position as Silver slides back with the old tires. But I think what we're getting to see here, they definitely have old tires to Silver and Coop, but they're not really sliding all that far back, which I think to me speaks to the importance of track position here at Sonoma, since this ends up being a relatively narrow racetrack by any standard. It's certainly not as wide as Watkins Glen, and you can't make the same kind of moves here that you will be able to when we hit New York in August. But track position seems to be key, even if it means just running around on cloth pads for tires.
Yeah, James, and you called it. Look who is directly behind Nick Silver, our biggest mover by far in this race so far. Dylan C. Jones in that 11 machine, all the way from 29th up to 7th off of that pit stops. You said pit stops were a huge deal, and tires are a huge deal at Sonoma, where that 11 machine is putting in the boards. Brandon Bowie gets loose coming through the corners close to turn 11. Now Nick Silver forced to go down pit road for the first time, and now Brandon Bowie going to get passed by Dylan C. Jones, and that's going to move the 11 up a few spots.
I think if you're Jones, you almost want this caution to hold off for maybe 5 to 10 laps just so you can get up there and start fighting with the drivers at the front of this field, because clearly Jones has the pace and has pace maybe more so than just about anybody else in this field. He hasn't had the chance to fight up for the lead, but nothing crazy happening yet for that 11 car. It's been a very steady and smooth run up towards this top of the leaderboard for the 11 machine. Looking forward to see what he can do here. Next up on the board for him will be Lionel Callisto. There's a little bit of a ways to go to get to the 97, but with the pace that he's had, might not be too long before Callisto's under fire for that 4th position. Also hearing from race control now that Kyle Barnes has been DQ'd from this race, so out of the race goes the 15. We'll try and investigate that further as we progress through this race, but won't be seeing any of the 15 more tonight. And in the meantime, we'll continue to return our eyes back to that 42 machine and his battle with the 90, because Eberhardt's been pestering the 42. I think that's probably the best word to use in this case. Hasn't really put a move on Comstock, but boy, has he been all over the rear bumper of that 42 machine.
Just keeping him honest there, James. That's all Eberhardt is trying to do, especially when you've got to wait out for this last caution, because you don't want to make the move and be caught by the caution. So maybe Eberhardt's just laying back, trying to, just keep him going and say that I'm there, but I don't want it just yet, because Eberhardt is the faster car on the track at the moment. You can clearly see that by how much Eberhardt has closed down that 42 of David Comstock. So Eberhardt maybe just playing a few mind games, waiting out this last caution, and then it's all-out war between those two. And they've been the two class of the field drivers so far, as Callisto's kind of fallen back, still not able to get around DeBarro, and DeBarro's having a great run. Started 9th up to 3rd after that caution, so great run from the 96 machine.
Really solid run for the 96. I think it's also worth pointing out at this moment that we won't necessarily have it yet, but we've kind of split that sort of window of the cautions. We got one towards the beginning at lap 15, and now we're waiting for the second, but we're already working lap 28, so we're past the halfway point of that sort of window, and we're also past the halfway point of this race, which means it's time for us to take our iRacing Midway race break, which is brought to you tonight by iRacing, the world's leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. In the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing, with officially sanctioned action from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, the Cars Tour, USAC, and more. So we look at lap 28. It's David Comstock leading the field, then Daniel Eberhardt in second. Anthony DeBarro currently running in that 3rd position, under fire from Lionel Callisto for 4th. Dilla Jones has come from 29th to 5th. So clearly your hard charger winner, no matter what happens just about at this point. Then you've got Brandon Bowie 6th, Carl Shedd 7th, Joseph Tights 8th, Sean Casto done a nice job, currently running in 9th, and then Austin Coop was in 10th but has been passed by Mike Kelly.
Yeah, and that battle's still going on as Coop getting back around. Mike Kelly is going to stay, 10th, now 11th goes to Austin Coop. Trevor Roppolo is going to be 12th, 13th David Washington, Andrew Ferniars is going to be 14th, Dwayne Vincent 15th, 16th, Nelson Rivera 17th, Gabriel Wood, Corey Wolf 18th, Christopher Hurlow 19th, and Braden Whitaker is going to round out your top 20.
Sean Boundy is in the 21st position right now, and then you've got Ross Cato in 22nd. Scott Walter is in the 23rd spot. 24th is where you'll find the 32 of Shane Ewing. Nick Silver in the 25th position now after staying out on that first run. Doug Roth currently sits in the 26th position. 27th, last car on the lead lap, is Douglas Wyatt. And then Bruce Ackerman is the first car one lap down in 28th. 29th is where you'll find John Abbott. And then 3 laps down in 30th is Kyle Barnes, now disqualified. 31st is Giovanni Bermonti, who is disconnected, as has Randy Yoakum, who rounds out your field in 32nd. And then has been your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today. For a limited time, you can visit iRacing.com/World of Outlaws and take advantage of exclusive promo codes to get yourself on the sim with a 1-year membership for half the price. Once again, you can go visit that website at iRacing.com/World of Outlaws if you would like to join us on the sim and eventually potentially be a driver in this Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking. Working through the race here, currently on lap 30, and at the front of the field, it's still David Comstock, still Daniel Eberhardt, and then Anthony Navarro's found his way up to the 3rd spot. So you can kind of see now the drivers that have got the pace who didn't necessarily have the best qualifying spots. Navarro and I think Jones in particular really beginning to make his way run through the field.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, James, but for me, this race has flown by. We're taking 20 laps to go this time by, and Comstock has done a great job when he was able to get out front of Callisto early on, and he's taken the reins of this race, and he's led just about every lap since, if not every lap. But I don't know if Eberhardt's been able to sneak by him, but we'll have to see how everything shapes out. Now look behind them, as now Anthony DeBarro is going to be looking in his mirror to Lionel Callisto. Lionel Callisto maybe getting a second wind here, James, as he's catching on to that 96 pretty quickly, and maybe the 96 has burned off his tires just a little bit too much, but there's a pack behind him. Don't look now, Dylan Jones already up into the top 5. So like you mentioned, he's wanting this thing to stay green for as long as he can, because he's got this car hooked up and going left and right perfectly.
DeBarro's in a great position, and I think Jones is trying to get there. He's not quite there yet, but I know that's where he wants to be. I think that would be the ideal setup for both of them. You'd want yourself and then DeBarro and then Eberhardt and Comstock up at the front 4 if you're Jones, because I think if you're Dylan Jones and you've got the right information coming in from the spotters, you know those are the fastest cars on track all night long, or all day long, I suppose, if we're speaking in terms of the sim. But they've been the class of the field so far. Callisto's been good on the short runs, but it's sort of faded as we've gone on into green flag runs and hit the 10 and 15 lap mark, and then from there, it's been a pretty consistent run for everybody in the rest of the top 10. Bowie has been about in that 5th, 6th, 7th position all night long. Shed has dropped a little bit from qualifying P2, but he's been top 10 all night long. Tice is exactly where he started 8th, running 8th, and then Casto and Kelly started 11th and 10th and have been pretty much there the whole time. So the back half of the top 10 seems really stable right now. It's that front half that we need to watch.
Yeah, and don't look now, we have a lead change here, James. 90 of Daniel Eberhardt takes the lead from David Comstock, but not without a fight going up through the hill. There were a few shots to the back end before Eberhardt was able to actually pull away just a bit from Comstock. We'll have to see how this all plays out. Now Comstock back in second, where he qualified 3rd up to 2nd, and now he's going to dive it in, get a little bit squirrely on entry. That's not what you want to do here, and that's going to allow Eberhardt to just drive off the corner. So Eberhardt finally up at the point after being the faster car for so long.
Eberhardt finally makes the move on David Comstock, and now it's the 90's turn to begin to lead this race as Comstock slides back to P2, and then you might have caught it on the replays there. We had a fierce battle for the 3rd spot between Anthony DeBarro and then Lionel Callisto and Kyle Barnes, who has actually been undq'd, hearing that it was connection issues for him, and that was the technical way to not count the laps where his connection faded. So still 4 laps down, running in the 29th position, but with the same sort of speed that he had before. He had the connection issues, though. He just overran turn 4 there, so that might put him back a little bit. But he was up there in that mix with Callisto and Jones and Shed and DeBarro, and was just kind of there in all that madness. But it was a fierce 4-car battle between that group of drivers. So in the meantime, they've all found a way to clear Barnes at the moment. So now, if you're Jones, all you have to do is go run down Callisto, and then you've got DeBarro, Comstock, and Eberhardt, who have been tops of the field for the most part here in this race. Currently working lap 33, coming to lap 34, so only 7 laps left in that window. So we are going to get a caution here soon. We just don't quite know when that caution will come.
took the words right out of my mouth there, James. You never know, and it's going to be soon because these drivers are anticipating it. They know the window, and they know the window is closing very, very fast. So with these drivers in Eberhardt and Comstock, maybe they're just trying to lay off, save their stuff, not push too hard because they know just about beyond that hill is going to be that caution. So everybody seems to be pretty single filed out and pretty much about spread out as you can get. Is now Joseph Tice is up to 6th place going through. So looking through your top 10, everybody's pretty spread out at this moment in time, maybe just trying to ride it out to that caution.
You would think you're either riding it out, or I think if you're, Jones and DeBarro, who wiggled a little bit, must have had it off somewhere. We didn't catch it, but currently now being scored in the 8th position. So trouble somewhere for Anthony DeBarro on track. And one car goes around. Chris Hurlow actually spun himself coming out of turn 7 into turn 8. Don't think that's going to cause too many issues for any of your front runners, but I did catch the smoke there as we went through the S's there, that 8-8A-9 complex of this facility, leading you down into the very fast 10-11 bit that gets you through to the hairpin and back around to the front straightaway. So looking for that caution. I think most everybody's trying to find it, though. I see Scott Walter has managed to short pit the yellow, thinking that it might come out soon. So he'll pop out here right in front of this lead group on cold tires, which might make things interesting here for a few corners. But pretty easy to get tires put up to speed here and get them warmed up, since you brake and you accelerate so much. You're on one pedal or the other, it seems like, pretty much the entire way around here. You're not really lifting much of anywhere. So he'll be able to get that thing warmed up and ready to go and kind of just slide into place.
Yeah, and the battle continues through 8, 8A, and 9 here. James is Comstock almost had Eberhardt, Doug Ross right there in that 43. Almost gave Comstock the window to get through and get past Eberhardt once again. So maybe that was the final wind for Comstock. Let's see how they treat turns number 11 here as another driver, the 19, who's a rookie this season, moves out of the way. No trouble there. And now Eberhardt able to resume the lead and have zero troubles going on up into turn 1.
Eberhardt's got it now, lap 36, so 5 laps left in which we will see the yellow. It's coming quickly. You might end up playing the lottery and winning it big here if you can find a way to short pit. See if there's anybody of note that has managed to come down pit road. Not really seeing anybody at the moment as we kind of pan through this field that's going to take the gamble and take advantage of it, but it's close. But it's also really, really close at the front of this field, too, for the race lead. Comstock has not let go of the rear bumper. Daniel Eberhardt is trying to find a way around him to get the lead before this yellow. Takes a little bit wider arc into the corner, but Eberhardt gets the good drive off of turn 7 into 8 and 8A and through 9 here as well. So, and see Comstock there slide a little bit. Trying is David Comstock, but just can't quite find the way to make it happen.
Yeah, and he's probably going to be, this is probably will be his last attempt as he now gets through 10 really well, looking towards the inside on turn 11. You see Comstock right there. You get the preferred line going in, and Comstock is going to be able to drive off the corner real well. Not going to be able to clear the 90 just yet, but Comstock going to get that lap led, and we'll have to see when this caution comes out. We're running out of time here, James. Lap 37 we're working on now as they still go side by side up the hill through turns 2, and Comstock resumes the lead from Eberhardt. They're going up through the turns here, going down. Eberhardt still trying to make it as they go through. Eberhardt trying one more time as they get through 4, going through, and now Comstock able to pull away just a bit more from Eberhardt as he slides it going through turn 7. Eberhardt going to be able to close in just a little bit. Now they work through 8, 8A, and 9, the S's, as everybody likes to call it. Now Eberhardt so good through these S's. You see him all over the back bumper of the 42 of Comstock, and now he's trying to get up there but not gonna quite do it. Don't look now. Comstock gonna be able to drive away, not gonna get too big of a run. Now Eberhardt comes down pit road, finally surrendering. Can't wait for that caution once more. Gonna short pit it, gonna maybe see that caution this time by. We're running out of time. as Comstock has no trouble out the back. The closest person to him now is going to be Dylan Jones, who's now down pit road. Callisto is going to be the closest one to him as they stay out, going through up into turns 2 on lap 38. Comstock still your leader. Callisto to second. Eberhardt and Jones down pit road. Casto is going to be coming across the finish line. He's going to resume third in that 52 machine, which is going to be really good for him with the points in that 52. Started 11th up to 4th. And now Comstock still leading this race. Callisto going down into it. Run into some lapped cars battling here. That's going to be the 12 and the 19. He's going to split them 3 wide going through 4 as Comstock still comes out. And now the caution flag comes out. 42 is going to be your leader.
Yeah, and this caution is going to be the second of the cautions that the admins are going to be throwing. So this is it. Everyone who just came down pit road, they timed it perfectly. And for David Comstock, he's going to come around turn 12 over, or 11 rather, come through here. He'll pick up the rough pace car. And at that point, Comstock, I would guess, Chris, he's probably still going to have to pit for tires. I would not want to be out there on old tires going past this stage. So I think we'll see the 42 in, the 97 in, everyone who hasn't pit. And as far as people who have pit, well, Daniel Eberhardt's 6th right now, so he sits in a pretty good position as it stands right now, Chris.
He really does, and we're going to have to pay attention because Comstock definitely does not want to be out on the old tires, especially now going to be working inside 10 laps to go. When we go green here, Cisco Comstock's going to want to come down pit road. Eberhardt timed it perfectly, and so did Dylan C. Jones. He fell back to 9th, but with all these drivers that have stayed out, we're going to be looking toward Eberhardt and Jones to be the class of the field because they're going to be starting up front once this restart happens.
And it's interesting to note, and this was a point we brought up actually yesterday. It got brought up. A couple of us were in TeamSpeak. The fact that, you know, some of these drivers out here a little more confident in the road courses, who say ringers and that sort of thing. And it happened in the real life series where the ringers, while they had some of them run on Sunday, those weren't the guys at the front of the field. It was still the Cup regulars. And you look down the list. David Comstock currently your leader. Lionel Callisto's up there, and Daniel Eberhardt is up there as well as Anthony DeBarro. DeBarro, I would say, is more of a ringer than a lot of these guys, considering the luck he's had all season. You know, he's been running up front really well today. Lionel Callisto, same thing, very good run today. But for a lot of these Cup regulars, a lot of guys up front are just the normal crop of the crowd that we're used to seeing, as here comes David Comstock coming down pit road.
Yeah, he's going to be quickly followed by that 97 of Lionel Callisto. So we'll have to see who all came down and who stayed out. See where everybody shapes out here as everybody's coming down pit road that stayed out. Dylan Jones trying to catch up. We'll see if he comes down pit road again. Nah, he's going to stay out. He's going to assume that position. So Eberhardt maybe looking to be the leader. No, it's going to be, yeah, it will be him. Maybe Sean Casto up there. Sean Casto stayed out. He was going to, in that 52 machine, he's going to be right behind that pace car. So we'll have to see what that 52 has up his sleeve.
Yeah, Casto's going to be leading the field once we get back to green here, waiting to see who comes off pit road. First, it's going to be Comstock, then Callisto, and then I believe that's the 19 of Bruce Ackerman, and behind him it looks to be the 47 of Andrew Friedosh, and then right behind him as well, the 16 of Corey A. Wolf. So those are the guys coming off of pit road right now. They're going to have the freshest tires, but as James alluded to before we lost him there into the bowels of the internet, it's these guys, it's going to be track position, I think, is what you're going to want to see here, Chris. It's nice to have the fresh tires, but track position, because it's so hard to pass here at Sonoma, that's probably what you're going to want a little bit more.
Yeah, and as the lights are still on top of the pace car, we'll go around one more time before we actually get to settle this thing. The last yellow now has come out, so that's 2. One on lap 38 and one on lap 15. Those are the only cautions that you will see here tonight, unless something really big happens. Then we'll have to see what race control does. But Eberhardt starting in second. He has been one of the top guys up here in the field, and you'll have to go back a long ways to find the 42 of David Comstock all the way back behind Joseph Tice. So we'll have to see where everything stacks out, see if Comstock can get back up. You know, these road courses are so hard to pass. I don't think that Comstock will have enough time to get back up there, but I'm looking for Dylan C. Jones to maybe pull something out of his hat. He started 29th, and he's up there close towards the top of the field, right behind DeBarro and Eberhardt. So it's going to be interesting to see how these final 10 laps plan out.
Yeah, it will be. And while we have a moment, we're going to give a call to one of our sponsors here on LSR TV. Joe Real Timing and coverage of the Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series is brought to you by Joe Real Timing. And they are the official timing software of LSR TV. Whether you spend your time on the sim, behind the wheel, on the pit box, or from the spotter stand, JRT is the go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. Get yourself a basic download for free or get the pro version today at joel-real-timing.com. And Chris, that's something we use a lot here on LSR TV is commentators to be able to see the live timing, see where everyone is on the track, as well as, well, when you're in the car, it gives you fuel numbers, let you know where everyone is. It's just good to have that information.
Yeah, it really is, and I use it all the time, whether I'm racing or whether I'm up here in the booth. You get everything as it happens, Cisco, and it's going to be very necessary for these final 10 laps just to see where everything shakes out, especially how much these pit stops have shaken everything up. Sean Casto is going to lead them down to the green flag. We're going to have 9 laps to go this time by as lights are off on top of the pace car. I'm definitely going to be watching that 11 of Dylan Jones and even the 90 of Eberhardt, as Eberhardt has to get past this 52, and we know how tricky it is to pass here at Sonoma, especially going up through turns 1 and 2. Eberhardt not one to mess around, so pace car is going to go in this time by. They're going to make the turn towards turn 11. We'll see when that 52 machine goes, and he goes straight off the corner. Green flag back out here once again as Sean Casto leads him down to the green.
And Castro got a huge run on Daniel Eberhardt as they head into turns 1, 2, and 3A. And Eberhardt going to close the gap up as they head up the hill. A great slowdown. He gained a ton of time on the 52 here. No, he's going to get very loose. Holds onto it. DeBarro had to get out of the gas, and now those two are going to go side by side. DeBarro going to try and yoink, and they're going to go off. Eberhardt goes off in the dirt, and he's going to get Jones. Jones able to, no, he won't hang on to it. And calamity here early, and Anthony DeBarro gets away scot-free. Meanwhile, the Aegis and PowerTech corporate teammates, well, their nights might just be done right now, Chris.
Yeah, huge mistake on the part of Eberhardt. Got into the 96 of Anthony DeBarro and just centered off into the grass. That's opened up a huge gap for the 52 of Sean Casto. Anthony DeBarro is going to be in second, and the driver I had my eyes on is all the way back towards now coming through turn 7. So you see the replay coming up, just a lot of room. You just run out of room coming up through those hills and going through turns 3 and 3A, and that's what happened. He came off, and it just happens. It's road racing, but now we're going to pay attention to Sean Casto and Anthony DeBarro, who's been going in, and it seems like right now we have James Pike back in the booth, so we're going to turn it over to him as
come and make things happen. He's been the one with the pace as of late, and looks like he might be gaining ever so slightly on that 52 machine, so we'll have to watch and see what happens. But DeBarro's coming. He's had pace all year long, hasn't had the wins to show for it, still looking for number 1 of the season. This might be his best opportunity to make it happen.
Yeah, he's quickly closing in. If you remember, Sean Casto did not pit on that last time, and it seems like it's working out for him with all the calamity we had those last few laps between Eberhardt and Jones. So maybe he will be able to hold off Anthony DeBarro. Will DeBarro have enough time? He's going to be there going through turns 11, almost there, as he's cutting the turn 11 as quickly as he can to get the run off. Anthony DeBarro is on a mission.
DeBarro's on a mission, and then I don't want to even know how many cars you've got back here. David Comstock is back in this mess. Mike Kelly is here. Nick Silver's here. Carl Shedd is here. Lionel Kalisto's right there. They are all just all over each other's rear bumpers. If you're DeBar and Casto, you're loving this because you're not necessarily worried about all these drivers back here trying to run after you. It looks like it's going to come Casto and DeBarro and maybe Comstock if he can get up there, but might just be DeBarro's race here now if he can get around Casto. Casto's got the speed.
Yeah, Casto does have the speed, and he's actually held on to the tires pretty well, but it's going to take them to start racing in the top two to have Comstock come up from third position. He's had the speed all day, and he's led just about all of this race tonight, James. So David Comstock definitely wanting to chalk a W up on Sonoma, get one of the road courses down and out of the way, but now we look towards the lead. We have Anthony DeBarro all over the back bumper. Sean Casto tries to get defensive, gets a little bit squirrely. That's going to open the door wide open for the 96 of Sean Casto, and maybe even David Comstock as he's almost there, but the 52 shuts the door. New leader, Anthony DeBarro.
DeBarro now to the point here with 5 laps left to go and just got a really, really good run on Casto as they came to turn 11, and Casto tried to slam the door on him but couldn't quite get it punched down to the inside in time, and then DeBarro just read it and took off. So Anthony DeBarro now to the point. Comstock was able to get around Casto 2 there coming to the start-finish line. So now it's DeBarro and Comstock 1 and 2, and those two have been up towards the front of this field all night long. May well have 2 of our best drivers at this racetrack tonight fighting for the victory.
Yeah, and look back behind him, Comstock coming very quickly. We're working 6 laps to go now. James Anthony DeBarro has had the pace. He's been the ringer all night. He's had pace all year, like you've mentioned, and he's showing it here. He can finally get that W if he can hold on for about 5.5 more laps is all that 96 machine has to do. Fight off Dave Comstock, because we know how hard it is to pass here at Sonoma, but David Comstock is no stranger to using that bumper, and it's going to come into play here very soon.
I have a feeling you might just be right about that, Mr. Murdoch, because he's really closed the gap here within the last lap. DeBarro's been quick, but Comstock's quicker right now, and Comstock has managed to close the gap down. It was almost a second the last time it's down to 0.2 of a second, so he gained 0.7 of a second in 1 lap here, and now with 5 laps to go, it's bumper to bumper between the 42 and the 96 for the victory as they come into 3 and 3A. Comstock should have the opportunity to make a move when they come into 4.
Yeah, and coming into 4 is one of our biggest passing zones, and they have a lapped car to work around. That's going to be the 11 of Dylan Jones. Just how quick a race can turn around at a road course like Sonoma. Now Anthony DeBarro fights off. Oh, contact between the 11. The 11 is making contact even more with the 96. Maybe some bad blood as the 11 goes off. Now David Comstock's going to be all over him. I don't know what that was about, but the 11 went off the track, and that just allowed David Comstock to catch up even more. Somehow the 96 is able to hold on and keep hold of this lead as they go through 9 and 10 and maybe down through 11. Comstock can have something for him.
11, that's the spot. That's where you have to watch, I think, if you're DeBarro, because Comstock's been able to really get on the brakes and make it happen. Tried to get a crossover move going there on DeBarro through the corner, but DeBarro was able to place that rear bumper right in the spot you need to, right in the middle of that crossover point to make sure that Comstock couldn't make it happen. So he'll have to try again at another spot, but Comstock's got the speed. Now working lap 47. You've got 3 laps to go to make things happen. Or 4 laps to go, rather. Getting down to it here in Sonoma here. Wine Country makes it tricky on numbers, tricky on lap times, tricky on tires, tricky on just about everything. And now that might be the move. Here comes Comstock now. Yes, underneath DeBarro to turn 4, but he thinks better of it. DeBarro, though, slides through the corner. Maybe Comstock's got a shot in 7. He'll try and look underneath. Yes, here he goes into turn 7 to get underneath DeBarro, but DeBarro cuts him off one more time.
Yeah, but that's going to allow David Comstock to get a huge run off of turn 7 there and be still right on the back bumper. Keeping him honest there, James. I've used that saying so much here tonight, but it's so true for a road course like this because it's so hard to pass. You just got to wait for a mistake, and Anthony DeBarro made one, but David Comstock, I think, got just a little bit too loose under braking going into turn 4 and messed it up. Now watch turn 11. Just see how good that 42 machine and see how low slow he is compared to that 96 machine, but Anthony DeBarro able to hold off for one more lap. 3 laps to go this time by.
One car around in turn 11. Couldn't quite tell who it was, but I saw the smoke back behind this lead battle. We'll stay focused on this lead battle now, though. Looks like it really got somebody back up there because Castro's really backed it up. They're almost 5 seconds back. Now 3 laps to go here for DeBarro and Comstock to make something happen, but they've run away from this at the front of the field. Good luck if you're catching any of these two drivers. The only way they'll come back to the front of this field now is if these two wreck while racing for the victory. Comstock now with the bumper again on DeBarro. Tries to make things happen again with the 96. Doesn't quite make it work. We'll look for the crossover here in 7. Can't quite get the run he needs, though. Doesn't quite get the speed that you need to get alongside the 96. So his next spot, I think, will be turn 11.
Yeah, and it's just tiny mistakes that Comstock is making right now. You can see him get just a little bit loose on the braking, and it could be from where he had to drive the wheels off this thing just to catch back up to Anthony DeBarro. He did start back towards the back half of the top 10 on this last restart. Even though that wreck did help him out, Comstock may have a little bit more heat on his tires. Now he tries the outside, and it's not going to work for him in turn 11. DeBarro going to get a great run off the corner, and now 2 laps to go this time by. Anthony DeBarro's just got to hold on, James. Do you think he can do it?
Gonna be tight. 2 laps to go. Here's your first passing spot, turn 2. If you can set it up right, you can see Comstock trying to cut under and really go shallow through the corner to get the apex, just to get alongside the 96. Anything will do. Any space will do for the 42. Now shortens up his corner to try and make something happen at 4. Doesn't really have the space here, though, to get alongside DeBarro. So all he can hope is that DeBarro overshoots the corner. Doesn't quite do it there. Good runs off of 4 for both. Now into 7. Another passing incident. Hearing something is happening with the 90 car. Maybe lap traffic. Yes, right there in front of everybody. So that might make things interesting here with 1 lap to go. If it's Eberhardt that plays into this, he's one of the drivers in the playoffs already. Comstock is there already as well. DeBarro is not. This is his best chance so far to get a race victory. And then Eberhardt runs it wide and runs it into the wall right in front of lap traffic and right across and nearly collects Comstock in that battle. They'll go to 11. Don't think Eberhardt's going to be any problem for any of these drivers. He's off now, and the staging area for the Drax cars and the NHRA cars that come here as we get the white flag. Oh man, DeBarro got really loose coming across the start finish wide. 1 lap to go. Comstock will have a few more chances to make it happen, but not quite. Here they come up through turn 2, though. DeBarro's got no tires.
Yeah, and Comstock was aware that he was not going to make the pass happen on the inside, so he's had to resort to the outside. He's going to complete David Comstock, your new leaders. They're both sliding it up through 2, 3, and 3A. Both sliding, but Anthony DeBarro sliding just a little bit more than Comstock. Comstock able to pull away. 1 more lap to go, like you said, James, and I think this race is all but wrapped up for David Comstock.
Going to take a Tony Stewart-esque move and a Denny Hamlin-esque mistake in turn 11 now, I think, for Comstock to find a way to lose this. Not impossible, because we saw it happen here 1 year ago, but definitely improbable. And the way that 42's run all night long, he's been one of the best cars in this race. But here comes Comstock. Lap traffic in the way, nearly collects DeBarro. Won't be an issue, though. David Comstock, one of the best drivers here all night long, ran up in the top 3 just about every lap in this race, and will come through turn 12 and get a duly deserved victory here at Sonoma Raceway. Comstock wins the first road core race of the 2017 RSR Full Throttle Cup Series season. And then Anthony DeBarro burned off the tires and managed to bring it home in second. And Nick Silver, after jumping off pit cycles, manages to come home third. Big run for that 24 machine.
And just what a drive by all of the by both of these drivers in the top 2, Comstock, DeBarro. They gave us a great battle towards the end of that race, and it was amazing, James. You can't be disappointed with where you finished here tonight, because it was a hard-fought battle, and DeBarro can hold his head up high knowing that he gave it pretty much everything he had. He left it all out on the track, but it just wasn't enough. David Comstock was so good here tonight, and it showed. He was able to catch all the way back up to DeBarro and grab that win.
Comstock just had this place figured out, I think, better than anybody else. That's the big key. Was able to run up and ran some of the fastest laps all night long. It just made things happen, and didn't matter whether it was DeBarro, didn't matter whether it was Eberhardt, didn't matter whether it was Jones or any of the rest of the drivers we saw up there. David Comstock gets it done for his boys at Aftermath Motorsports, and now I think becomes a 3-time winner this season. The first of the drivers, especially outside of Aegis Motorsports, to pull that off as well. So a big season for that 42 machine continues, and we'll have to watch him, I think, as we come to September, as he provides us with a little bit of smoke on those rear tires, presuming he's got a few bits of rubber left on the rear tires. Not necessarily something you can say when we come to Sonoma, but we'll go ahead now while he burns it down and go through your full field rundown, which is brought to you by RealSimRacing.com. It provides a series and league for all iRacing drivers, including the Winston Cup Series on Wednesday nights and the Midnight Thunder Cup Series on Thursday nights. If you want to check them out, go visit them at www.realsimracing.com. David Comstock comes away with victory number 3 of the 2017 Full Throttle Cup Series season. Anthony DeBarro put up a valiant effort there in the final handful of laps, but could only bring it home in the second position. It was third at the end of the evening for Nick Silver. Fourth place for Joseph Tice. We didn't really say his name much at all, but a very good run for Tice tonight. Fifth was Lionel Calisto, and then Carl Shedd came home 6th. David Washington finished 7th. Brandon Bowie 8th. Andrew Farina is 9th, and then Trevor Rapallo rounds out your top 10.
11th belongs to Sean Casto. Dwayne Vincent comes home in 12th. 13th belongs to Gabriel Wood. 14th, Austin Coop, after getting off cycle, found his way back to 14th. Corey Wolf is going to be 15th. Nelson Rivera is 16th. 17th, Mike Kelly. Braden Whitaker is going to be 18th. 19th, Sean Bowdy. And rounding out your top 20, Scott Walter.
Shane Ewing finished in the 21st position. 22nd belonged to Doug Roth, last car on the lead lap. First car one lap down was Ross Cato in 23rd. And then 24th, Douglas Wyatt in that 33 machine. Daniel Eberhardt got cut up in that incident on the last restart, finishes 25th at the end of the evening. Same can be said for Dylan Jones, who finishes 26th. Bruce Ackerman was able to bring it home 27th tonight. Kyle Barnes ran into connection issues, finishes 28th. Chris Hurlow will end up 29th tonight, and then John Abbott finishes 30th. Giovanni Vermonti finishes 31st out of the race, as did Randy Yoakum in 32nd. 38 laps down to finish off the race this evening. So there are your full field results, and your rundown brought to you by RealSimRacing.com. And boy, what an incredible race there, Mr. Murdoch. We saw it all tonight at Sonoma.
We really did, and I don't know if it could have gone any better. We saw a lot of stuff, you know, even heartbreak towards the end. It seemed like Eberhardt was going to be able to wrap this one up with Comstock all the way in the back, but then some, you know, late race contact going through 2, 3, and 3A between him, DeBarro, and Jones just sent everything up in the air and kind of just mixed everything up. But what a win and what a drive by that 42 machine to come home with the win.
And we will talk to the driver of the number 42, David Comstock, along with Anthony DeBarro and Nick Silver, your top 3 finishers here on the other side of the commercial break that we will take right now as you watch the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
The NASCAR Beginner Series, powered by iRacing, is the premier NASCAR eSports series featuring the cars and tracks from the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. The 2016 campaign saw a return to the top of the mountain by Ray Alfalla as a 3-time NASCAR World Champion. The march to that championship was not easy, though, despite the fact that Ray Alfalla took home the most points in series history. It just also happened to be the tightest championship fight we had ever seen. These guys are set for the 2017 campaign, and as it has been for the 7 years prior, it is no longer going to be a straight shot to the championship. We are going to see the biggest change in this championship picture in series history, as for the first time ever, there will be a chase for the championship. We're going to go into the Homestead Miami Speedway at the end of the season with the 4 best oval sim racing drivers in the world absolutely tied in the championship. You just got to beat the other 3 guys out and you will become an official NASCAR champion. You're going to get yourself a NASCAR championship ring and, of course, $10,000. These are the iRacing Esport World Championships, the pinnacle of sim racing competition. You can catch it all season long, live coverage on iRacing.com/live.
Welcome back to coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking here on LSRTV. As we get ready to close out our coverage of round 16 here at Sonoma with our post-race interviews as we do every week. And we begin by talking to the man who gets to go hang out with the Corbell folks and drink a little glass of wine himself in the media center here at Sonoma Raceway by picking up the victory. David Comstock gets it done. And I know a lot of fun, I think, for that 42 car. A lot of really, really awesome racing here. But we'll get the driver, the number 42, in here momentarily. And as we step over to him in victory lane, David, not quite Southern California, where I know you've got a few more roots, but to come back out here and win never hurts for you, I know. And to win it the way you did, being so strong in the beginning and having the best car for a good chunk of this night, and then having to run down Anthony at the end. Can you take us through, especially that last handful after the restart, take us through all that madness, because that was wild from our seat.
Yeah, starting back where we were at, I was concerned. I didn't think I was going to get up there, but I don't know what happened up front. We came over, I think it's 3B, crested over the hill. I saw someone go off-roading, and we crested over, and someone's sitting sideways in the middle of the track. So I don't know what happened there, but once we got through all that and I was able to start getting through past people, I didn't realize I had a chance to try to get to the lead. And Anthony and we had a real spirited battle. He raced me, aggressive but clean, and it was good. I was able to finally get a good run going up to, I think it's turn 2, and was able to just hold it on the outside. I think it's just because I had a little bit fresher tires. So I was, like I said, I didn't think I was going to get up there, because when Daniel pitted right before that yellow came out, I was planning on coming in that next lap, because we had 2 random cautions that were going to happen, and no one knew exactly when. So we were just kind of guessing at that point.
Let's talk about, I think, the overall tire management strategy that you ran this race with, because we saw with DeBarro, especially in those last few laps, the tires in that 96 were gone and you still had something left. So I imagine the way that you ran this race, that was pretty high up on your priority list, and that was something that you were conscious of, not just in that final stint, but throughout the full 50 laps of tonight's event.
Yeah, the strategy, pretty much what I was going to do no matter what, was just wait for the caution to come out and pit, and just try to have the freshest tires just because of that advantage. But even at the end there, when we were running Anthony down, I mean, you have to be so disciplined with the gas pedal there. You get on it too hard, you rattle the rear tires, and you just light them up all the way down the straightaways. So and that's even with fresh tires. So Anthony, he did a good job. Everyone, around us that we were all trying to get by, they all did a good job running the pace they did still with how old the tires were.
And now we look at the schedule, and you become one of our few 3-time winners in the 2017 Full Throttle Cup Series. But I think the most interesting thing to me is that we look back at the schedule. You've got a victory at a short track in Martinsville and a mile and a half in Charlotte, and now on the road course here at Sonoma. So just about every type of track. I suppose the super speedway is the only one you haven't done something at yet, but I figure that has to bode well as we start looking towards the playoffs in September, that in your head you can go to every single type of racetrack that the series competes on and can be competitive week in and week out.
Yeah, it's good to know and see that I'm a good all-around driver. So I prefer more road course stuff than ovals. So I kind of wish we had a little bit more of these style races in the chase or later on through the season to rack up some more points, some more wins. So, but beyond that, yeah, super speedways hasn't been very, very nice to me this year. I've been either caught up in wrecks or I've had electrical problems where I can't keep a connection in the game, in the server.
I know there are a lot of people that make it happen for you in this 42 team, and it's a big operation. So go ahead and give your shout-outs and let all of us know who deserves the thanks for making it possible for you in this 42 team.
Absolutely. Would like to thank everybody at Aftermath Motorsports for allowing me to come over here and run here, Real Sim Racing, and you guys broadcasting here at Live Sim Racing TV, and sponsoring the car every single week. Gary Mercer Trucking, Brandon Mercer, their support, and JT Plax Plus and John the Heitzman, his support. And remember, guys, you go to this website, jtplax.com. You can make a purchase, enter code David number 3 at the end of it, and you'll be able to get 25% off. So go take advantage of that this week. And Monster Energy for being on board every single week as well. JD Layer, JDR Graphics for painting my car. Hick and Jix, EJ Brakes, all the fans, everybody watching. Thank you, guys.
I know Heitzman in particular will appreciate the fact that his driver has made it back into victory lane, as will the folks at Gary Mercer Trucking and Monster Energy. David, thanks for the time once again, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
We'll see you in a couple weeks. Enjoy the 4th.
So there's David Comstock, winner of tonight's race for you. And now we will slide over to pit road from victory lane and away from the barrels of wine and back towards regular NASCAR life, and hand it off to Chris Murdoch, who is standing by with the runner-up of tonight's event, the driver of the number 96, Anthony DeBarro.
Yeah, I got Anthony DeBarro, who started 9th all the way up to 2nd. He was able to capitalize on, pretty much every mistake that was handed in his way. And Anthony, you had such a great run here tonight. Why don't you take us through just a little bit of your race here tonight?
Well, it's nice to talk to you guys. It's been great starts to these races, but we haven't been able to get the finishes, and I'm glad I'm here talking. But I don't know, we had a good car. I'd say about a 4th place, 5th place car, and we ended up having a shot at the win there. David had, I'd say, 5-6 laps, newer tires, and that was the deal. And he was just on rails all night. Definitely the best car all night, David. Good win there.
Yeah, and take us through that little mishap between you, Dylan Jones, and Eberhardt going up through turns 2 and 3, right on that restart. What was going through your mind when all that contact was happening and everything was bouncing and banging off of you?
Well, the 90 spun the tires at the top of the hill, so I got a run, and I dove to the inside, and I locked the front brakes up and shoved them off the track. So I just tried gathering everything up, and I don't know what he was thinking. He just drove straight into his teammate. I mean, I almost chuckled a little bit, and then the gates opened, and I had to just chase Sean down, and then David got me because he was way faster. But it's sad to say. I mean, I'm not gonna say what my opinion is really, but you got a whole team. There's 3 cars out there, 90. Dylan Jones and the 19 car that were literally trying to wreck me, waiting for me, wrecked in front of me, and it's not right. I mean, I know the officiating crew is not going to let that happen. This is not RSR. This is not what we stand for. So I hope they really handle that. I mean, it was a clear mistake on my part getting into Daniel, and they're going to try to take me out as a team. It's not right.
Yeah, and moving on to a little bit of a lighter note on pit stops, you were able to capitalize on pit stops so much and able to find yourself towards the front of the pack after every single caution and everything that had happened. What was your strategy take? Because those 2 random cautions, you never knew when they were coming. So what was your mindset going into that?
Well, the last 2 years here at Sonoma, it was basically the winner pitted under both caution and just didn't pit there in the green. But when I noticed towards the end of the race there, before the last caution, a bunch of cars were trying the short pit strategy. So I waited. It was lap 33, 34. I'm like, you know what? There's going to be enough of a buffer where hopefully I'll be the first car on fresher tires, and then those cars that pit there on the caution, I'll be able to hold off. And I mean, it worked out for second, so I'm not complaining, but I wish it could have been one spot better.
Yeah, and it's always great to talk to you. You've had the pace all year, and you're finally up here in the booth, and we're going to give you the chance. Sponsors, shout-outs, Anthony, who makes it happen for you?
WinView Games. I mean, it wouldn't be possible without them. Everyone should go check out their website and download the app, and it's really cool. You could win some money and do some fun stuff. You could play for free too as well, so everyone should check that out in the App Store or the Google Play.
All right, and there you have it, the 96 of Anthony DeBarro. Anthony, congratulations on a well-deserved second-place finish in a hard-fought race all night. Look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Oh, yes, sir. We'll be talking next week.
All right, there you have it, James. Anthony DeBarro, your second-place finisher with a solid run. I'm going to toss it right back over to you where you're standing with Nick Silver, your third-place finisher.
Here with the driver of the number 24 machine, Nick Silver, down on pit road. And Nick, I think pit strategy is just the story of your night. You jumped completely off of what I think most people expected, and then managed to find a way to battle up. I think you were, maybe 29th or somewhere, and maybe 25, 26 laps through this race, and you come all the way back to finish second. What went behind the pit strategy that you used this evening, and how'd you come to decide to use that strategy?
Well, I kind of planned it before the race. I knew I was just going to pretty much split this one in half, no matter when the yellows came out. But like you said, I fell all the way back to 25th. And unfortunately, caution didn't come out, kind of as quickly as I thought it would. And I think, unfortunately, I picked the wrong strategy. I just kind of lucked out there that everyone was battling at the end.
But still, to come up through, this is another top 5 finish for you. And I think road courses and short tracks, these places with the quick acceleration, they've tended to be your specialty here as of late. What is it about these sorts of places where you just kind of find things to sort of fall into place and click for you?
Well, I like to think I'm not one of those guys that can, really go all out all the time. I'm not usually at the top of the board in practice. Unfortunately, don't qualify very well, but I think I may be one of the smoother drivers in these road courses. And like you said, the short tracks, it's all about line and being smooth off the corner.
And another top 5, I think, for consistency, for building your name and trying to get into the chase. You have more points than anybody else in the series without a victory yet. So I guess then the natural question becomes, do you feel like you know what that next step is to try and get you to victory lane?
Well, really, it's all about being in the right place at the right time. Sean almost pulled it off, that being the case for him there. Unfortunately, just didn't have the tires at the end. But these guys are really fast, so it's all about just getting that little bit of luck there at the end to get you in victory lane.
We'll let you have your moment here to say thanks to everybody that makes it happen for you and this 24 team. So let the world know who needs thanks for making the 24 operation possible.
Gotta thank all the admins for putting it on. You guys for broadcasting it for us, doing a great job. Sean Casto, my teammate, for always making me better. And gotta say hi to my 2 fans watching the race, Mom and Dad.
Well, congratulations on the finish, and thanks for the time, Nick. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time from the Bluegrass State.
Thank you, guys.
And if you were wondering where we're headed next, there's your sneaky answer. If we are to be more direct, it is Kentucky Speedway that is the next stop on the schedule. We will take off for the 4th of July weekend here. We've run our Daytona race already, and they moved that up here at RSR to make sure that people can enjoy the 4th of July with friends and family. Though I'll admit, Chris, there's not necessarily going to be much of that on my end, because if you happen to be in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, you can find me and the rest of the folks at the Bojangles Summer Shootout, where they'll be putting on a special 4th of July display put on by Bojangles, who will be celebrating their 40th anniversary this year. So still is going to be a lot of racing for me on the 4th. What about your plans, Mr. Murdoch? What are you in line for on the Independence Day holiday?
Well, as a pastime from doing all this and all that, I also film and do stuff for a university. So we have a music festival coming up in good old Ashland, Kentucky, called Summer Motion. So we'll be over there doing the video crew for all the concerts and all that. A few bands coming up. Lone Star is supposed to headline one night, so they were pretty big back in the 90s, I guess. So we'll have to see how that comes out. So just a lot of great music going on for the 4th. We cannot wait for Kentucky to come around. Kentucky's such a great track. I love it, and should produce some great racing here in RSR.
One of the newest tracks on the schedule, but especially with the old pavement there, you can run that a lot of ways, and tire wear is a theme that seems to come up at certain tracks in this series. That is definitely one of the facilities in which you are going to have to manage your tires, just like we saw here tonight with our winner, David Comstock. But that's a battle to have in 2 weeks' time. And for now, we're going to go ahead and sign off from Northern California. So, for all of us here working the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking Coverage on LSRTV. That's Chris Murdoch, our lovely and talented producer Cisco Scaramuza, for John Abbott, Doug Atkinson, and the admins at Real Sim Racing, and for Laura Lawson, DJ Lyon, and Evan Pasoko at LSRTV. I am James Pike saying thank you for watching tonight's broadcast from the southern part of the Napa Valley, and we will see you 2 Monday nights from now, same time, same place in Kentucky.